Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second webinar in our What Amazing Math Looks Like series. Give everybody a few minutes to trickle in, and while we're doing that, go ahead and drop in the chat who you are, where you're from, what your title is, what you're excited to learn, what makes math so amazing. Olympia, Maryland. I used to live around College Park. So hello, Emily from Columbia. All right, everybody, let's get started. So I'm Shannon Guerin. I'm here from Amplify. And we are going to look at what amazing focus in math looks like today. So I'm going to run through a few little notes to help you make the most of this webinar before we start, and then I will kick it over to our wonderful speaker today. So here are just some tips. If you'd like to access closed captioning, just hit the CC button in the bottom tray and then show subtitles. You can participate and make comments at any time via chat. We'd love to see what you all are saying, what you're thinking as we have our sessions. You can submit questions using the Q&A function. We'll have dedicated Q&A time at the end, so make sure you put your questions in. That's the best way to make sure we address them. And lastly, you'll receive a certificate of attendance for joining us today and a webinar recording via Zoom email after the session. So just keep an eye on your inbox the next day or so for that. So our speaker today is Damon. He is an experienced math and science content specialist with a long history in education. He has experience in STEM education, curriculum design, lesson planning, and you might have seen him at a few conferences and events over the past 8 years, speaking to schools and teachers and districts about student learning in math and science. If you didn't know, he is currently a STEM product specialist for Amplify and has 15 years of experience as a former middle school, high school math teacher. You've done so much, I can't even say it, math and science teacher and coach. So we're very excited to have him here to talk about what amazing focus in math looks like. So without delaying any longer, Damon, I'll kick it over to you.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Shannon. I'm excited to get going here, seeing people from all over the US and then all over the world. I saw Canada, Mexico, we even got a Sweden in here. So really excited that everybody has joined us and are here to learn, what amazing math looks like, specifically today, what amazing focus looks like. And just while everybody is, in the chat and has their chat window up, just so everybody knows, I was actually given the title of this webinar to put this on to tell you what amazing focus looks like, specifically, thinking about Desmos math. And as I was thinking about focus, it's kind of a weird word and has lots of different meanings. So as you're in the chat, I want to hear, what does focus mean to you? I know Shannon, talked about, putting in the chat what it is that you're hoping to learn today, but I want to know, focus. What does that mean to you? You joined this webinar. What does amazing focus look like? You had to have some sort of an idea of, okay, I'm going to hear about this thing. So in the chat, go ahead and tell me, what does focus mean to you? Oh, I love this, paying attention to the teacher during a lesson. Absolutely. I see engagement a bunch of times here. So high engagement is definitely one of those items. Working until you figure something out. That's a really good one. Keep that one in mind. We're definitely going to be talking about that as we go through the presentation. Productive struggle, right along the same lines there. Thank you, Lori, for that one. Again, lots of engagement items. I hear interactive lessons. You all are going to get the opportunity to participate in a lesson and see, what focus looks like on a variety of different ways there. All sorts of things like that. Oh, I love the Kelly says, learning targets, being focused on learning targets. Great suggestion there as well. So thank you, everybody, for all of those kind of ideas of what focus is. And I just put some together. As you can see, this picture here is not in focus. So this is one of the kind of focus ideas. I'm coming to you from outside of Denver. This is a state park very close to where I live. So just wanted to show you what a focused image of that might look like. And for any of you who have any sort of science backgrounds like I do, this all comes down to this kind of focus, how that light goes through a lens and comes together in a single focal point. Everybody mentioned kind of paying attention. I grew up playing soccer. I don't know if any of you guys watched the most recent US women's national team game. This was quite a moment of focus for us as we ended up winning that game 1-0. My participant here from Sweden, you'll come back to lots of competitive matchups between the US and Sweden there as well. Because this is a math webinar, you might have been thinking of this kind of focus as well as we talk about parabolas or ellipses or anything like that, those kind of focus. But really, as we've gotten into this post-Common Core introduction era, focus really, as you start to look at those particular standards, is all about this idea, is that what you're doing in your classroom is truly focused on those standards, and that we're spending the most time looking at those major clusters. As you can see, this is 6th grade. I chose 6th grade because the lesson that we are going to go through is from 6th grade, but we would have, a different major cluster of standards for all the different grades. And of course, we would spend, some time on those supporting clusters as well as fitting in those additional clusters where they can fit in. So really, as we talk about focus here, that's really the definition of what that means. But everything that you have all mentioned, the engagement, the focus of students on what they're doing, all of that has to really be a part of what's going on, or we never actually get to the point where, we can get to focusing on these particular items. Now, the other piece that we're going to take a look at, and I want you to be thinking about as we go through the lesson, are these mathematical practices. So really now we have two sides to these standards, and the focus kind of has to be split between the two ideas, the content that we just saw a moment ago, as well as these ideas of how students are going to put this into place in the classroom here. And, teachers, administrators, educators that are, on the webinar, you're probably familiar with these and how these 8 mathematical practices come into place and how students are actually doing math. And the focus, as I'm sure you all know, has to be this balance where we're focusing on both the content standards as well as those practice standards. Now, you know that you have joined a webinar talking about Desmos Math. So, I am going to be a little bit partial to how Desmos Math addresses all of these items and truly shows focus on, how we put students in place to make sure that they're using all of the practices to understand all of those concepts that you're teaching. And the first thing I want to make sure that everybody knows, I don't want to spend the next 30 minutes talking about standards. I don't want to do that. I'm sure the majority of you probably don't want to listen to me talk about these standards specifically for that time frame either. But what I do want to tell you is, as you're thinking about putting Desmos Math into place and Amplify Desmos Math in the future and items like that, the authorship team of this program, when we specifically talk about focus and how we're meeting those standards, have two of the largest contributors to how those standards were actually written and intended to be put into place as major contributors. You see Jason Zimba over there on the far left and Phil Darrow on the bottom right-hand corner. Again, that were two of the major contributors on those Common Core State standards. So when we talk about, are the standards being met and are they being put into place in the way they were intended? Well, we have a couple pretty important people that are making sure that that actually takes place. And then we have some problem solving here put into place by Fawn, some great storytelling narratives and cultural connections by Sunil. And then hopefully everybody was able to join a couple weeks ago when Dan Meyer talked to us all about what amazing math truly is and got a chance to see that webinar. If not, there is a recording out there that you can watch, and you can see him talk about how sometimes students are asked to be robots in math, and we're actually trying to transition that over where students can be people and they can be themselves. And that's kind of part of what we're going to look at today in that focus realm. So I'm going to go ahead and get you all online here. I need you to put this code into this. Oh, sorry, I better bring that into focus there. I promise I won't tell too many dad jokes while we're on here today, but you just got kind of one there. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put this link that you see here into the chat, so you can actually copy and paste that link into your URL bar. Let me go back to where we were at. Okay, so now you will have that in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch over to our actual Desmos platform. We're going to do all of this work. So again, you can either copy and paste the link that I put into the chat into your URL bar at the top of your screen, and that will take you to where you need to be. Or you can type in the student.desmos.com in that URL bar. It will then ask you for a class code. You'll see the 6 digits that are there. You can put them in capitals or lowercase. You do not need the space. So just, type those in however you would like, and you will then become part of my class. And I see a lot of people have started to join. It looks like I have right now about 30 people that are in. I have currently locked you into a couple opening screens. You'll have access to go from screen 1 to screen 2. You will notice that screen 1 is going to ask you where you are from. I know you probably already typed this into the chat, but this will give you an opportunity to drag, a little point into parts of the US. If you are from outside of the US, there's a spot in the lower right-hand corner to drag your point, and you can actually put where you're from in the square there. We'll kind of take a look at what we're doing there. Just to give you an idea, here is kind of what that first screen will look like. And then our second screen, I want you to tell me, okay, in a perfect world, you're getting on an airplane. Where is this going to take you? You get to pick where this is at. You get to tell me why it is that you want to go to these places. There are a couple options for those of you that are like, nah, I don't fly. I'm not doing this. You can see those, kind of down below. I will put our code back up here for a couple more minutes just to see if we can get everybody in. Again, copy and paste the link from chat, or type in student.desmos.com, and then it's going to ask you for that code. Not case sensitive, so you can put that in. Also do note that you can log in with your Google login if you would like, or you can log in and you do not have to identify yourself. You can go under the radar and put your name in, or your nickname, or who knows, your spy code name, you know, whatever you want to put in there. And then you'll be locked into those first couple opening screens. Let's see. I show we have 73 people on the webinar and we're up to about 40. So I'm going to give you another 30 seconds to get anybody else who's still attempting to get on. And then, of course, if you're just going to follow along with us, I'll show you what's going on in the lesson. You know, if you're not going to directly participate in the lesson, that is fine as well. We'll still go through and take a look at, you know, some of the focus things, whether that is engagement, as many of you mentioned, or the focus on that balance between the standards and those mathematical practices as well. All right, so I'm going to come in here. I'm going to take a look at this first screen here. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to take a look at our teacher screen, and I'm going to see where we are all kind of from. So here I'm going to do a little bit of an overlay so we can see everybody's location. So you can see here we've got lots of people from kind of the East Coast. We've got Illinois, Michigan, there, some California. Lots of Arizona today. That's interesting. Nobody from my home state is here, except for me. That's okay. I'll try to hold down the fort there. Welcome from South Dakota. I like that. And then, of course, we've got El Salvador. I would say welcome in all the different languages, but I only speak English. I should probably work on that. Nigeria. Welcome. Glad to see everybody here. You will notice your name is probably not your actual name. That'd be quite ironic if it was. I have anonymized everybody, so you are actually famous mathematicians throughout history and throughout a variety of different cultures, and have contributed in a variety of different ways. If you'd like to take note of who you actually are, when we are done, or who knows, even now in a second window, you can research who your mathematician is and what they specifically have done. And then as I come over here and I take a look at where we're going, I see more people are actually looking at the relaxation. We like the beach, go to places that are relaxing. Nobody is interested in going to Vegas. That's right. They steal your money there. Oh, Harley Noon has just popped in, wants to go to Vegas. I do like that. We have one person who is going to exit the plane before it ever lands. Nobody is totally happy with where they're at. That's good. We get some excitement in there. And as I go down, you can see, oh, I love this. Laying by a beach near water is where my happy place is. I think you should definitely go to your happy place. Oh, yes, I feel you on this one. I have 2 kids of my own. You always need to get away and relax from that. And I can actually grab a few of these. All right, perfect. So just a few things here. A couple mountains, heading to Iceland in June. I've heard Iceland is absolutely amazing. Volcanoes, mountains, all sorts of stuff. I love the mountains. I live in Colorado, so I hear you. And the outdoor adventure is definitely up my aisle as well. One of my favorite things to do there. So I can grab these answers, show them, save them, all sorts of things. Okay, so all of you have gotten an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself, tell me a little bit about you, share all of those things, you know, with the group. I am going to go ahead and I am going to move you to our first screen here. And you should all automatically be moved to our warm-up screen. As we're talking about making sure that we are balancing our focus between a lot of different things here, we're going to do some math around this seesaw and doing some balance here. So as you can see, you actually are going to have the opportunity to interact with these screens. And you can just imagine, a lot of you mentioned, your students being engaged and being able to work through the math on their own and all of these types of things. I want you to keep that in mind as you are going through these screens and thinking about how your students are going to interact with this, how they're going to feel going through these particular problems. And of course, we are on a webinar, so that second point there, just discuss what you notice and wonder, is going to have to be either in the chat, or we can actually display different answers from students on the screen so you get an idea of what is going on here. As a teacher, I can actually go over and see what everybody is doing on their particular screen here. And I can see exactly how all of you are interacting with this particular screen. Now, I do want you to notice that the screen that you're looking at here is going to be nice and welcoming to bring your students into this lesson. There's no buzzers going off telling your students that they're wrong. They just kind of get to see what's going on with this balance. We didn't even tell them that it has to be level, or maybe we want the balance to be one way or the other. Lots of different ways we can actually take a look at what this balance might look like. And we can even have discussions around how these variety of different balances might be good, bad, might be part of how a student is feeling coming into the class, the reason why a student chose all of these things. Again, here that focus comes into engagement and allowing our students to come in and feel welcome into this math lesson so they can actually focus on that particular content, similar to how my soccer coaches used to tell me to focus on what we were doing in practice that day. Okay, so you've gotten an idea of what this warm-up looks like. And you can imagine your students coming in to the class and being ready to participate. And of course, you'd be able to have discussions around what students are seeing. Students would actually be in small groups, paired up, and talking about what they notice and what they wonder in this particular activity. Now, to take this into actually doing math and learning math, I am going to move you on to our first activity. And for this very first item here, I'm going to restrict you to this first screen, just so I can give you an idea of all the different things that take place in this particular screen. So I can come on and I can say, oh, this right here, this is what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out how much this dog weighs. I can type in here and I can say, I think this dog is really cute. It's a cute dog. I can even come in here. I can do whatever drawing I want to. So maybe I want to do an equation, and maybe I'm going to, write some things over here. I'm going to say this is 17. And this part right here, that to me might mean, who knows, maybe you have a really smart student and they say that kind of equals, that means an equal sign. And then I can come over here and I can say, okay, what is that dog? And we can start to look at how all of these things would fit together, how we might represent these items in a variety of different ways. And then you can actually go in and you can put in your answers. You can test these answers and you can see exactly what happens as you interact with this particular screen. So now that I've given you an idea of some of the things you can do here, I'm going to open this up and I'm going to let you work through this entire activity. So you are actually going to have the next 4 screens. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll be able to hit the next button so you can move on and you can go through these screens and see how the progression of math is taking place and how students are getting the idea of weight and what dogs might weigh and how they can kind of play with the math. So I'm going to let you work through these screens. I'm going to be quiet here for a couple minutes so you can just go through and do those items. Please feel free to post reactions or thoughts or whatever that might be in the chat as well, so we can kind of get some of that thinking that is going on that way also. All right, I just posted in the chat there this answer right here. This is one of my favorites to see in a, in an activity like this. Everybody should go back to the screen and type this in to the screen and see exactly what happens as we put that in and kind of try that answer there. You get this great feedback from the screen itself. So I'm just gonna come in here. If you haven't tried it, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a try. So, your students are getting this great feedback. They launch the weight off the balance here. So they automatically know, okay, that's a little too big. Maybe we should take away a couple of these zeros or most of the zeros. And as we get closer to this, we can actually see, oh, we didn't launch the weight this time. We're getting closer. So students have that opportunity in that low stakes environment to go through and kind of figure out what this looks like. Most of you were able to type in a 12 here and get that correct answer. And of course, students get to see exactly that they have accomplished what it is that they are supposed to be doing there. So you'll notice here, I wrote the equation, I kind of gave that away here, but you all get the opportunity to explain how the equation and that balanced dog are going to be similar. And then, of course, we take a look at a variety of different animals here, not just dogs, but we get foxes, we get several different animals as we go through. So, students will get to interact with this in a variety of different ways. Here you can see now we're dealing with 3 animals and not just one, and we're comparing them to a variety of different ways to look at this. And of course, as a teacher, I can actually come in and I can take a look at this and I can say, oh my gosh, how are these two the same? And I can post this and we can have questions. And remember, this is actually a famous mathematician. This isn't one of the students in my classroom. So even if this is an answer that might not be completely right, we can go in and we can say, okay, what is right here? What do we need to fix here? And we can have those discussions and nobody's put on the spot. And students, again, we're not excluding them. We're actually finding those pieces of their work that is correct, those pieces that they can contribute to the class, and we can talk about those and make all of your students feel like they're contributing to the classwork. And they keep that focus, they keep that engagement in what they're doing because they truly feel like they're making progress to getting through these problems, working through them in a way that makes sense to them. So, and then finally, it looks like most of you have made it to this final screen here. I can start to take a look at what everybody is writing here. I can start to take a look at any drawing that may have been done on these tape drawings. Let's see. Yeah, so we can take a look at a couple of these answers. But are we all, talking about the same idea? Are they all, going through this this same explanation of how we're using now a tape diagram to help us figure out that idea that there are three foxes on that particular balance beam? So again, a couple different ways to look at this particular problem here. Okay, so again, you saw a couple different focuses there as we were talking about the engagement piece. Hopefully you all enjoyed launching your weight into the air, as well as focusing on some problem solving, some of those mathematical practices. And of course, we're learning some math. We're going through some of those concepts. Now, I'm going to move you on to our second activity here. And I'm going to give you kind of some time to go through these, and we'll come back and take a look at, in particular, this third screen that I'm going to give you there. So I'm going to move everybody over. Hopefully you've all noticed there's a few of you that are still back here. That tells me, that I've lost a couple people along the way. It's all right if you've gone, and who knows, maybe you're opening a new tab and researching that scientist that your name was. You can imagine how great this tool would be in your classroom, where you can go find whoever, these four people are and say, hey, I need you to catch up with me. I need you to be part of the class, and we can keep that focus on what we're doing for the day. Webinars with math teachers because they are all, having fun doing the math. A lot of people don't love doing the math. I haven't figured out exactly why they don't love math, but there are people out there like that, as you all know. Oh, I love these examples here. You can show three different ways to kind of look at this. We can see our process over here. Yes, Kelly, you are right. It's because math it's hard sometimes. You're totally right. I totally agree. But I tell you what, you guys on this call, I love all these examples that everybody is using. It looks like the majority of us have decided that our cat here weighs 6.2 pounds here. That seems to be kind of the consensus there. So if I move over here, I can start to take a look. I'm actually going to see some correctness here. So I can see we kind of got through some of these. Let's grab one of these. Perfect. You've put together these different representations, right? We go from more of a concrete to an abstract representation using equations and tape diagrams and the images, putting all of that together, allowing all of our students, regardless of how they're kind of thinking, to put this into place, putting together all of those different screens that we saw using the balance and the tape diagram and the actual abstract representation, the equations, and then of course the answer. Oh yes, we have 4 problems. Looks like some of you have gotten to that challenge creator where all of your students get to create their own problem. Imagine this. I have teachers ask me all the time, do you have practice problems? Do my students have the ability to do additional practice, those students that need it? Here, not only do students have these practice problems that they get to do, they get to create these practice problems. They have buy-in to them. I love putting these up on the board. You can see here, this problem's been done twice. This problem's been done twice. My students get competitive here. They're like, oh, I can do all these problems, or maybe I can write a problem that everybody else can't do, but they have to be able to do it. They have to be able to do it before they can submit that practice problem. So now students have that buy-in, that focus into what they're doing, and it actually encourages them to go through and do these practice problems, to create that repetition that they need to become proficient at doing, in this case, some addition, with and without decimals, some multiplication, depending on how many animals you're putting on your balance. Let's see, I have a practice problem with 3 on here. Looks like we got an alligator in there. It looks like alligators and frogs seem to be the animal of choice in this particular group here. We have another one with 3. This is the hard one here where we have decimals involved. Look at this one. We have frogs on top of frogs for this one here. We don't have any additional responses there on that one yet. And of course, in the classroom, I would tell my students, okay, we're going to spend, say, 10 minutes on this particular screen. I want to see how many problems you can actually do. And when I look at all of my students, I can start to see what student has done all these problems. So here we have a student who's done 4 problems. Oh, here's one with 5 problems. So we can start to see how our students are doing. We're up to 6 down here. Amazing. You guys are doing amazing work. As you go through, you create these problems, you see that repeated practice, and now your students are all having fun doing practice problems. Of course, students don't always find practice problems fun, but again, this gives them that focus to get through the math and have fun actually creating and doing a variety of different problems here. Our last screen here, I'm going to go ahead and bump us over. I know some of you are probably in the middle of doing a problem. Hopefully I made you go, oh, you moved me to the next screen. But I just want to see, as you went through this lesson, and you can think about this as yourself, did you have fun doing it today? I'm sure all of you actually understood the lesson for today, but maybe you're thinking about this as your students, and how your students are feeling going through this particular lesson. Were they encouraged to focus on the math? Were they engaged and focused on learning for today? Were they able to pick up those concepts so that you accomplished your job, being able to focus on the specific standards that you were teaching for that lesson for the day? And of course, I can kind of get an idea of where we are all at. All right, looks like we're all on the upper side here. I have one student who's a little sad about the lesson, but that's okay. Not all students are going to be Super excited about everything we do. At least I would be able to go have a conversation with that student and ask why they might be a little sad about the particular lesson that they're going through. And then, of course, if this was an actual lesson, I would have, an exit ticket and an opportunity for myself as a teacher to go through and make sure all of my students got all the information. We were able to wrap everything together, and that exit ticket's going to tell me, all my students told me they understood the lesson, but I have actual data and evidence to back all of that up, to make sure that this matches what they're actually able to do in a practice problem there. Okay, again, so an example of what we're looking at with focus. So I'm just going to go back here and wrap this up. So we do have some time to go through, do some question and answer items like that. So if you do have questions, things have come up, please feel free to post those items. Again, this is truly all about what amazing focus looks like. And you all mentioned things like engagement. Hopefully you're able to see the engagement that goes into the lessons here, but really how students are able to focus on the standards. Today we looked at the standards you see there, 6.EE.B, one of those major standards that we're supposed to be working on, and of course the mathematical practices. The last thing that I want participation in here are kind of those mathematical practices here. Which mathematical practice did you see put into place in this lesson? And maybe a little bit about how that actually was put into place. So here you can start to take a look at, if I looked at all the teacher support, MP2 was actually one of the items that we were focusing on according to the standards. But because of how the lesson is set up, and because of what students are doing and the environments that they're able to work in, you're going to see many of these mathematical practices in there. So yeah, I see a mathematical practice number 4. Absolutely. We actually have a little bit of an example here on this little picture here. I don't know what these black dot guys are called, but yeah, very definitely the tape diagrams are in there. So we did a little bit of modeling with the math there. Let's see. Anybody else have any other ones there with the tape diagrams? I don't know, we might have done some repeated reasoning with all of those practice problems in there. I don't know how many of you had to persevere through solving problems. Yes, absolutely. Number 1 was definitely in there. So a lot of these items are in here. So that focus is not only on making sure we're learning those content standards, but students really truly do learn the mathematical processes and those mathematical practices as they go through the lesson. So we get some focus on those items. Some other things focus-wise that are in here. This is a fully student-focused lesson. So we allow the students to work through those tasks, those low floor, high ceiling tasks that they see, all sorts of instructional tools that you got to see me use as we went through the lesson. We would have had a little bit more conversation if we were in person, and you definitely saw us look at the math all the way from a conceptual pictorial representation up to getting to that procedural fluency point where we're going through and doing that. And of course, if you were using this over a long term, we would also get into the focus of a parabola and the foci of ellipses as well. That would all be part of the deal there. We looked at a little tiny chunk of Desmos Math, which allows you to truly bring that focus into your classroom. If you want to look at more than just a single chunk, I am going to give you the website here that you can go to as a teacher. There have also been several items posted in the chat that we will also send out to you in an email that would allow you to take a deeper dive into the lesson that I showed today. So you can take a look at the entire thing, or a variety of different lessons 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and Algebra 1. If you would like to use this in your classroom, you can request a free trial, and we can make all of that happen as well, to make sure that you're comfortable with how all of that would look and that you're set up and how to get your students in so they can go through the lesson just like you did today and see all of those amazing focus pieces put into place. So having said all of that, thank you everybody for joining me and spending, looks like we did about 40 minutes of math and conversation. With that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it back over to Shannon, and she's going to walk us through a little bit of a Q&A for any of those questions that may have arisen that we have not answered as of yet.
Thank you. Well, luckily you were so good, we don't even really have any questions yet. I'm sure some will come through as they do. Let me go back to my Q&A slide. Oh, and as I said that, question came through. So one question from Lauren. So Lauren says, are we saying that amazing student focus is made through the positive aspects of the Desmos program, as in allowing students to play with, discover math concepts, anonymous setting, and visuals from the real world? And I will say, amazing focus can be found not just in the Desmos program, but in lots of math programs. But I will let Damon speak to the rest of the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Lauren, it's a great question, and as I mentioned right up front, focus has a variety of, different definitions to it. As we talk about the standards, that focus comes into the idea that you are going to spend the majority of your time working on those major clusters, focusing on those mathematical practices and making sure that students, as you mentioned, are able to play with and discover those concepts, that it's a low stakes environment where they're allowed to make mistakes and they are anonymous. So those mistakes aren't put in front of everybody else. So now we get into that engagement piece of the side of the focus where students, they want to do the math. They want to stay focused during class and continue and problem solve through. So yes, that's all part of what amazing focus looks like as we go through, of a variety of different lessons. And yes, that takes place all the way through 6th grade to Algebra 1. So
we had another question about using Desmos. Can you share out snapshots to student screen?
So as I took those different snapshots, I didn't actually save any of them, but I can go in and I can save all of those snapshots, whether it's a single screen or 2, 3, or 4 together. I can save those in folders. I can send those to students, parents, just share them with the class, put them on PowerPoints. So yeah, absolutely, you can grab those. They all go in your snapshots folder within Desmos. So you can grab them at the time that you're doing it, or who knows, maybe you are, on a lesson later on down the line and you remember, oh, we have this great piece that leads into this. I can grab it, bring it back into what I'm doing for that day and show it then. Yeah, all of that is savable, shareable. It saves within the platform. So you can access it at a later time as well. Yep, absolutely.
And then we did have one question just for hosts that I answered, but in case anyone else is curious, we had a question. So right now we have Desmos Math 6 through Algebra 1, and is there a timeline for Algebra 2 and Pre-Cal? Not yet, but we will of course make many announcements, and whenever we have any news about that. So if you are interested, just keep checking our Desmos Math 6A1 page and you'll get all the latest information.
Yeah, so Kelsey, I'm going to give you a little more information on that, some exciting pieces if you want to be part of the journey of development in there. As we look toward next school year, things will start to be finished up and and wrapped up. We are looking for certain teachers in certain areas that might want to try things out in their classroom to make sure that what we're doing makes sense and that it works. And then we'll have basically a full thing ready to go, not next school year, but the school year after that. So you can actually, try everything in a very, very close to full production range there. So that's really what we're looking at. Keep in touch and we can, work with you and see, how we can get these things in your hands. So you might be able to try some things out, or anybody else who might be asking the same question.
And with that, I think that is all the questions, which is good. You did such a great job. Answer everybody's questions before they had them. Before we wrap up, I wanted to share some more math resources if you're looking for them from Amplify. And I not changed my slide from last time, but Sam, our first speaker, hosts Math Teacher Lounge podcast. If you want to hear more tips and strategies around math and tips you can use in the classroom, go over to this page. We just kicked off our latest season, and this season our theme is tackling math anxiety. So very important things, dealing with students, trying to change the stigma around math class. And as some of you pointed out today, math is hard and some kids have a really hard time. So we're trying to help students and teachers kind of flip the script and make students more comfortable this season of Math Teacher Lounge. You can find more ways to make math amazing and have amazing focus in class, as we've said, with a free trial to Desmos Math 6A1. Just go to this page to learn more. We also have a brand new efficacy study that was just released a couple weeks ago that shows how Desmos Math 6.8 improves student outcomes. So you can see that this has been tested and it really does help get students focused and engaged in math. And then if you want to check out more resources from our full, from all the webinars we've had in the past and more free PD, you can go to our math webinars page.
Yeah, and Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but same bat place, same bat time, Monday next week, and then Monday the following week to continue on to learn more about amazing math.
Yes, yes, yes. We will be looking in amazing collaboration and amazing engagement are our next two topics. So you can go on that math webinars page and sign up if you haven't already for the next two webinars. Thank you. All right, everyone. And with that, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you joining us. We know you're busy, and go and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.